Matthaios moves to the entrance of the overgrown labyrinth. Its initial corridors, plazas, and subchambers are relatively familiar to him, enough so that he should not have much difficulty in relocating the two sanctuary rooms he has found. The Neophyte looks to the sky, what portion of it he can see beyond the high walls and the stone holds. The sun has sunken out of view, and the shadows have grown long. He has no time to waste, and a real urgency spurs him on. But the fact is, he has already had a long and arduous day, and soon it will be dark. He dislikes the prospect of treading through the danger-filled maze in the darkness, with no light source.
It is just too much of a risk. What good is saving time if I were to get lost again? Blinded by darkness, falling upon some death trap or terrible beast.
He backs up to the crumbling basin, gathers some dead branches and dry brush, and ignites them off the fire trap. With a small cook fire going, he cleans and roasts the bird he felled with his sling. After preparing the meat he enters the overgrown labyrinth, heading for the secure resting chamber. He steps around patches of tall weeds and passes vines that hang from the trees that have grown up from the breaks in the structures. For ages, the Ascendancy and their servants kept areas such as this under their control. But since the war and the parting of the veil, the Ascendants are no more, and their surviving minions are not enough to keep the wilds from overtaking the great labyrinth. Within less than half an hour, he has found one of the sanctuary chambers. It is as he last left it. The sky has darkened, casting the room into gloom. Matthaios bars the door, sets his personal effects down, removes the helmet and the scrapped-together armor, and lies back to rest. Once again, he thinks of his family.
They must be so worried about me. Mother most of all. When I see her again, I'm going to embrace her, kiss her cheeks. I will look at her and at Father and tell them, I am now a warrior. See this, your very own son is a warrior of Akarat Garden.
His eyes sting in want of weeping, but he inhales a sharp and strong breath to hold in the tears.
I'm going to survive this. I'm going to make it through. I am not marked for death. I am star-blessed and fated for the strength of life.
These thoughts and many others run through the young man's mind until the weariness of the day's struggles overtakes him. Matthaios awakens in the dark of the chamber. Crickets and other insects chirp and drone, though less so than the evening prior. He takes a drink from his water skin and moves over to one of the arrow slots in the wall. All is still quite dark, and he can make out only faint indications of the corridor and a tree nearby. He rests for a short time more until the soft light of early day comes. He eats the bird meat and drinks more water. With his vigor and resolve high as ever, he dons his armor and shield, unbars the door, and heads on into the maze, seeking the shrine of the Scaled Oracle, which, as far as he knows, lies somewhere to the east. Matthaios walks the twisting corridors and decrepit plazas. Once, and then twice, he comes upon a dead end. In this one, he notices a tiny nozzle concealed in the wall, and he smells a faint scent of oil. He halts himself before he stumbles onto whatever trap this is.
Every turn in this place could bring grave injury, even death.
But his confidence is unshaken. He presses on, trying a different path. He gets himself out of the stuck position and once again moving. He does not yet seem to be making much progress toward the east, but at least for now, he is not hitting the same dead ends. As he rounds a bend in the current corridor, something shifts in the floorstone. A metallic rattling comes from above, along with a heavy spiked ball on a chain. The Neophyte jerks to the side, and the hefty flail swings past him, missing. He proceeds on through the overgrown maze, ever wary of his surroundings. Judging by the sun, Matthaios has stayed on a more or less eastern heading for a while now. As he moves around a burgeoning growth of tall brush, he spots a corpse. It is no more than a skeleton, and by the tattered remains of its clothing, he determines that it was a young man from his own garden city.
Paulos, is that you?
This previous neophyte had entered the trials just over 2 years ago, but never returned. Near the body is one of the bronzen lockers. Where the lock mechanism would normally be is a hole in the coffer's frame. The skeletal corpse of Paulos is curled on its side, with a slender metal spike skewered through its chest. Matthaios draws his longsword, moves to the side of the container, and pries it open. The lid raises with no complications. Within, he finds a vial marked as a potion of climbing, and a tunic of chain armor. Not a full suit of mail, but a chain shirt along with a light helm. The neophyte judges that it would not be any better or worse in terms of overall protection compared to his current armor, but he quite prefers it for the fact that it is properly fashioned and better fitting. Besides, scrapped pieces of a serpent guard that was tainted with Gagatha musk was only something that he resorted to out of sheer necessity. He spends a few minutes changing into the fresh armor. It fits more comfortably, both the chain tunic and the lightweight helm.
Paulos, you died trying to obtain these goods. I will make use of them. Wherever your soul has gone, travel well.
The neophyte keeps moving. After about 2 hours total, he has made a good amount of progress, and the wild growths of the area are thinning. He comes to a place that has quite a bit of structural damage. A high ledge overlooks a lower area, with a massive stairway descending 30 feet to the ground below. There is an enormous den burrowed out of rock and earth, with huge heaps of gravel to either side of its entrance. It does not seem that an excavation crew made this layer, but rather something which naturally possesses a formidable digging ability. As he takes in the vista, a large insect-like creature appears at the mouth of the burrow. It pushes out a clump of gravel, using its antennae to help it along. The thing is more than twice the size of the young man, and a dark, ruddy brown chitin covers its head and back. Matthaios identifies the creature as an onkeg, a predatory and monstrous beast. One of them burrowed into the field near Akarat Garden some years ago, and his father told him of the warrior's preparations and strategies of how to drive the thing off. Its large mandibles deliver powerful bites and trap prey and adversaries. What is worse, the thing produces a potent acid that accompanies its bites and that it can unleash in a spray. Matthaios removes his shield, readies his crossbow, doing his best to keep from making too much noise that would alert the creature to his presence.
This thing is in my way. Hopefully there aren't more of them. Well, come on, crossbow. Let's see how well you shoot.
The crossbow bolt streaks through the air and strikes the insectile monster. It lets out a high-pitched trill of shock and pain. The onkeg's legs scuttle, and it disappears down the tunnel into its burrow. Matthaios reloads the crossbow and waits to see if the thing reappears. After a moment, the creature has not returned.
Have I driven it off? I need to pass through this area. This is the way east.
He listens for any sign of it lurking nearby. He hears only the breeze and birds and buzzing insects of the area. Matthaios unloads the crossbow and stows it at his side. He straps his shield back onto his left arm and takes the potion of acid resistance in hand. At the first sign of the creature, he will down the contents of the vial. He starts down the stairs, slowly and quietly. When he reaches the halfway point, the steps shift beneath his feet. The massive stone slats quickly retract into the wall. Matthaios manages a stride downwards, then nimbly leaps, landing on his feet on the ground. All of the racket draws the attention of the Ankeg. It is coming back. The Neophyte flicks off the stopper of the vial and quaffs the potion. The giant vermin comes, making threatening trills and chirps. Matthaios draws his javelin and flings it. The throw is awkward and misses the target. He moves in an attempt to keep the monster from closing with him. It gives chase for a moment, then lifts its head and releases a stream of liquid from its mouth. The acid strikes him directly, but the protective effects of the potion reduce it to only a burning sting. He dreads the giant mandibles of the Ankeg and wants to keep it at bay. He repositions himself and takes the Tanglefoot in hand. The Ankeg pursues him still, scuttling with its horrid pincer mandibles wide open. As it comes close, Matthaios throws the flask. The alchemical tar splatters onto the monster, binding it in place. Matthaios draws his sword and circles around the Ankeg, positioning himself out of its attack range. He strikes, taking advantage of the restrained foe. He slashes the mighty insect, then channels all his focus and drives the blade ahead still. The weapon hacks and thrusts against the thing's chitinous exoskeleton, wounding it even further. The Ankeg struggles against the bonds, but it is unable to free itself from the tar. Matthaios does not stop his assault of steel. The sword gashes the monstrosity, and it trills in agony. It jerks one way, then the other, unable to get at the warrior. It scrapes at the binding tar. The creature frees itself of the sticky substance, moving its insectoid legs once again. It whirls around to strike at the young man. He meets it with his blade. The longsword hacks off half of the creature's mandibles, then stabs into the underside of its thorax. Acidic spittle gushes out, which Matthaios leaps away from. He leaves the thing in its death throes and hastens away. Not wanting to find out if there are more of the creatures lurking in the burrow, he heads eastward, climbing over and wading through the heaps of excavated gravel and dirt. Through a combination of skill, tactics, and item usage, Matthaios bested what would have otherwise been a frighteningly dangerous enemy. He continues to learn in leaps and bounds, most of all, that he is capable of extraordinary feats he never before thought possible. The passage to the east leads to an enclosed chamber. It has a single exit, a stone door on its eastern wall, positioned atop a landing with stairs leading up to it. Crimson mold spreads throughout the entire room, like a slimy network of veins and bloody membranes. The chamber reeks like the most fetid of mildews. What is this? After observing the massive fungal patches for a moment, Matthaios realizes that it is an expansive overgrowth of blood vein mold. It produces noxious spores that can make a person very sick, or worse. Scraping or cutting at the mold could clear it away, slowly, but it releases even more spores when harmed. The best counteracting agent would be strong distilled spirits, which neutralizes it. The chamber is not massive. Matthaios would need to move into the room, get up the stairway, onto the landing, then open the door. This assumes it is not locked and nothing of immediate danger lies on the other side. He would be exposed to the mold for potentially less than half a minute, and if his natural fortitude is strong, he could stave off its toxins.